So the last section we need to deal with in 600 is the contact information, the form, and making sure that it goes the right width. Um, we want it, again, we want the My Info section to go down to the bottom and have the whole rest of the form take up the 100% of this section. So the first thing we want to change is My Form, or My Info. And if you recall up here, we turned My Info into 37%. Well, now we need to go ahead and make it 100% wide, and we're going to put some space at the bottom of it so that it doesn't run into this reefer, the top um, um, anchor tag down here at the bottom. So we're making it 100% wide, and it's going to, which will bring it down underneath the form itself. So let's see what that little piece did there. There's a couple other things that we need to do, clearly, but it did bring it down at the bottom. Let's look at the HTML. So we have the My Info aside. Inside it we have 3 divs, and so we need to see what those divs are doing. And go back up to the main section, and My Info divs are aligning right. And they have some space below each of them. So in this case, what we want to do is make them, we're going to float them to the left, all of them. We want them to line up one after another. We're going to put a margin to the right of each of them of 3%. We don't really need to put a width on these because I don't think it's going to get wide enough to matter. So without putting a width on it, it kind of assumes that it's going to take up as much area as it needs. Each one of these we're going to text align right. And there's going to be some space at the bottom of them so that it continues to push things in the direction that we want it to. So if we go back over here, let's go ahead and refresh. Now it has gone and lined up at the bottom. We have some space in between each one. They're still separate elements, separate divs, but they're lining up nicely because we've put space in between them. So we need to make we're going to do a thing on the last child on this so that it does not have a margin right, just in case it has a problem and doesn't line up correctly. If it has a problem with how wide the screen ends up being, we're going to take this margin off. We're going to continue to float it left, which we really don't need to say because we did it up here. So all we need to say is that we're going to take the margin off of it. It shouldn't really look like we've changed anything when we do that. Really, there doesn't look like there's much change. We just took the margin off that would be on the right of the phone number here. We do need to change the My Form div so that it's 100% wide. and it needs to then float to the left as well. So let's just take a look and see what my form was doing up at the top. My form is 75% wide up here. It has a margin with 0 on everything except for the bottom is 20 pixels. So the code we're going to put down here is we want it to be the width of 100%. We don't need to say float left because it already is floating left. The margin, we're changing the margin bottom to 8 pixels. So here it is with the original amount of space at the bottom, and changing it to 8 just brought this up a little bit, and you see that it did go out to 100% wide. So that should take care of all the changes we need for 600 pixels. We seem to be right in line with everything that we wanted to do. And we just need to make a few changes for 400 pixels to just tweak this a little bit for a telephone size. Let's look at what the done version is. It's not really making any changes here, except that if it goes down under a certain width, under 400, the info line is going to pop down. But I don't think we're going to worry too much about that. We're just going to let that happen if it needs to be. We are going to change these sample pictures into 2 columns. The main nav, the width changes on a little bit more. You watch. There it is at 600, and if we come down to 400, they went out a little bit wider. The wrapper is going to change a little bit as well. If you see here, it's at the 85%. We bring it in, it's going to go to 90. There. Excuse me. And the headlines on the inside, these heads, are also going to go just a little bit smaller yet again. So that's all we need to take care of. And we've already changed a lot of that stuff one time before, so let's see what to do on this time. First, we need to do our media query line. So media screen, at media screen and max width 400 pixels. And inside there, we're going to make changes to the wrapper and the main nav. So let's copy the wrapper down here. And we're going to make it 90%. Really don't want to go much more than 90%, or we won't have any margin at all on the inside. We want to change the main nav, which is those navigation buttons on the front. We're going to make that 90% as well. So that's 90% of the wrapper, so it's still indented a little bit off of where the wrapper is. The inside head H2s, I'm going to make a little bit smaller. So we're going to make that 2.6. No magic there. It was whatever I thought looked best when I made these in the first place. And then we need to make some changes to the samples. So let's go ahead and grab these guys, bring them down here, and we'll see what we need to change. So the sample LI, we want them to be 2 in a row now. So if we leave this margin inside of 2, well, no, let's not leave that margin as 2. We're going to make them 48% wide, which means the margin would need to be 4 between. And then we want to take off the one that's going to be on the right. But first we need to adjust these guys here. So the nth child 3n is going to be an odd one, and those we're always going to want the 4% margin on. So every time there's the third one, it's always going to be an odd one, and on the odd ones on these, there's 2 of them. We always want there to be a 4% on the odd side. The 5n, we've already taken off that clear, so I think we can safely get rid of that one in this particular case. And the 4n, we're going to go ahead and put that 4% on as well. That way we're making all of those the same. And we're going to add one additional one. And that's going to be even. And that's where we're going to take the margin right off. So what we've done here is we've set everything that we've messed with so far, we set to 4%. So that there is no dealing with how much is on 3, how much is in the fourth ones. We're not even dealing with that. We're just setting them all to 4%. Then we're coming back, and on the even one, we're just going to take that margin off. The reason this works for 400 pixels, and we don't have to worry about changing it back any place earlier, is that this only applies to anything under 400 pixels. When we go to the 600, these rules won't apply at all, so they're never going to be seen anything bigger than at 400. So this is what we need to do for this particular section. Just make sure we've got our closing bracket. We'll hit save. And this is the one we've been messing with here. I'm going to go ahead and refresh that. These guys are now lining up beautifully. And down here, this is, whoops, come back. This is doing the happy dance down here. We really didn't change anything down there. Up here we changed where these guys are. So they're going out a little bit at 400. And the headlines are changing just a little bit to get a little bit smaller for that phone size. And that takes care of all the media queries for this site. As you see, again, all we changed on each one was the specific style rule that we needed to change to make the media query happen. We did not repeat any styles that we were already, or any definitions that we were already using if they didn't need to change. So that's it for doing this whole page. Oh, there's the one thing that we didn't do on this page, and that is add the little triangles there. I'm going to put that on as a bonus video, but it's certainly nothing that you would ever be expected to have to do in this class. It's just a little fun way of being able to put those triangles on the site. So I will do that in a future video. For now, this is really all of the information you need to build this site to make it functional the way it sits.